Right everyone, it is Finn here and welcome back to my Premier League predictions, where today we'll be talking about Andre Onana's potential future career in MMA, whether Tottenham Hotspurs could fare without Harry Kane, and will Everton lose again? Welcome everyone to my Premier League Match Week 2 predictions. We've got some absolutely fantastic games to talk about today. I hope you guys are all ready and in the mood now that the Premier League season has returned. I'm feeling a tiny bit under the weather, but let's be honest, no one really cares. So of course the show must go on, and jumping into our first game of Premier League Match Week 2, we have Nottingham Forest versus Sheffield United. Now basing this just purely off of Match Week 1 and what I saw so far, I'm going to go for Nottingham Forest here with a 1-0 win. Yes, I know they lost versus Arsenal, but they had some truly promising moments. Defensively, I definitely think that there's something special there. On the attacking front, especially now that they've got Anthony Elanga, I do think they've got a lot of potential up front. And especially versus the Sheffield United team, who were dominated by Crystal Palace, I do think Nottingham Forest are expected by every means to get the win. I mean, look at Sheffield United, defensively they weren't that great versus Crystal Palace. And on the attacking front, ever since they got rid of their attackers from last season, they are missing a striker who is sharp up front. Sorry, was that a bit too obvious?
You have lost the fans tonight. You don't deserve the fans.
But all being said and done, I do think from what we've seen so far, Nottingham Forest should be the strong favourites here with a 1-0 win. Now, jumping into our second game, we've got Fulham versus Brentford. And much like the first game, I do have an obvious favourite here with Brentford. I'm going to give them a 2-1 win. Looking at Fulham, although yes, they got the win versus Everton, I didn't necessarily think they were the strong favourites there. There were times where they did find the toffees hard to chew, and looking at Brentford picking up a 2-2 draw versus Tottenham Hotspurs, I thought they had some very promising moments. Yes, they did struggle defensively to defend set pieces, but on the attacking front, even without Ivan Toney, with the likes of Mbeumo, with Visa and one or two others, there is so much potential there, which I mean, looking at Ivan Toney not being in the squad, Brentford have not lost their last 6 games without Ivan Toney. So it might not be as big a problem as people thought. I mean, I don't think people would bet that they would have been that good without him. I mean, if they did, they would have been banned for 8 months.
I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed.
But ultimately, as I said, just based purely off of Match Week 1, I am going to go for Brentford with a 2-1 win. Now next up, we've got Liverpool versus Bournemouth. Now looking at Bournemouth, I didn't think that they were bad versus West Ham United. They definitely had some promising moments, and they do look like they could be a lot more structured compared to last season. But ultimately, I am going to go for Liverpool with a 2-0 win. Looking at them versus Chelsea, I didn't actually think that they were the better team on that day, but once again, they looked miles better than they did last season. I think attacking-wise, they have potential to get a lot of goals this season. Defensively, they look really, really good, and that midfield is an absolute dream for Liverpool.
What's this, motherfucker?
I think this is the closest they've had in a while to that team from 2019 in terms of quality. And I'm not just saying that because of Trent Alexander-Arnold's hair. I truly believe that this is a new Liverpool team. I'm excited to see what they can do this season. And I do think that they'll pop the cherries. Ugh. Wolverhampton Wanderers versus Brighton is next. Now, of course, looking at Wolves, I can't believe I'm saying this as a Manchester United fan, but they totally outplayed us. And if we didn't have Stevie Wonder as a referee, I do think Wolves probably would have gotten the win there. I mean, you have to give them credit, the fact that a WWE move was used in order to take their players out.
Watch out, watch out, watch out, watch out!
I don't think Wolves were nearly as bad as I thought they would be, despite the fact that they lost almost all their best players this season. I do think they've got something exciting about them, and they could do something versus Brighton. But ultimately, at the end of the day, after picking up a 4-1 win to Luton in their opening game, and looking at the last 3 games between these two teams, Brighton have scored 12 goals in the last 3 games between them. And because of that record, and with their start the season, I do think Brighton will pick up a very comfortable 3-1 win. Once again, it's nothing bad versus Wolves. Yes, they were better versus Man United, but once again, it's Man United. It happens sometimes. And of course, speak of the devil and he shall appear, and quite literally in this case, as we have the Red Devils, Manchester United versus Tottenham Hotspurs in arguably the biggest game of the match week. Now, of course, we've got a lot of talking points here. Obviously, Tottenham Hotspurs officially without Harry Kane.
Don't cry, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry.
And let me say, I don't think they were that bad versus Brentford. I think James Maddison was a perfect fit for the club, getting 2 assists in the first Prem game for them this season. And ultimately, I think they'll be okay without Harry Kane. Saying that though, Harry Kane losing 3-0 in his Bayern Munich debut, there's something quite poetic about it. You can always take Kane out of Spurs, but you can never take the Spurs out of Kane. And this will probably be the first time in 12 years where Bayern Munich don't win the Bundesliga. But of course, jokes aside, and let me not be too cynical, I do think this could be an extremely close game. Yes, Man United weren't brilliant in their opening game versus Wolves, but I do think once again, if they can actually learn to string passes together, I do think they'll be okay versus Tottenham. Obviously, they've won the last 5 out of 6 games versus Tottenham Hotspurs ever since they lost, 6-1. They really have lockdown in defence. And yes, despite the fact that Andre Onana literally punched a Wolverhampton Wanderers players, I think he's been an absolutely solid goalkeeper. I'm excited to see how this game turns out, and maybe I'm being a tiny bit biased here, but I think Manchester United are going to pick up a 1-0 win. It's going to be extremely close, but looking at the defensive problems that Tottenham Hotspurs had in that game versus Brentford, I think if Manchester United can truly switch up on front or up front, I do think Manchester United should get the win. Now, of course, going from one exciting game to another, we've got Manchester City versus Newcastle United next. Now, of course, looking at Manchester City, I mean, it really just reminded us that this could be the same old season. The second Erling Haaland scored just 3 minutes into the brand new season. And this Manchester City team is just something to admire, even as a Man United fan. Look at Newcastle United, though. They have potential to rival them here, as they got a 5-1 win in their opening game of the season. My only worry for them is the fact that the last time they beat Man City was in 2019, and the only thing I think could beat Newcastle United's money at the moment is Manchester City's money. I think this could be an extremely close game, but at the end of the day, I am going to go for Manchester City with a 3-1 win. Although I do appreciate the fact that Guimaraes got his name in Braille on his hair. The third last game of the episode, which by the way guys, don't forget to put your predictions down below, as much as I can tell you my thoughts and opinions after all the research I've done. Once again, I always love to see what you guys think about the games down below, and especially when you guys tell me I'm wrong. But of course, third last game of the episode, we've got Aston Villa versus Everton. 2 teams with heavily underwhelming starts to the season, both losing their opening game. Aston Villa with a 5-1 loss to Newcastle United, which, considering the players that they've brought into the team and considering they're now a European team, once again, absolutely shameful. I bet you their manager did not have a good evening.
No!
Obviously, look at Everton once again losing to Fulham, and as I said, I think in many aspects of that game they almost were the better team, and I think they're almost quite unlucky not to get away with some points there. I do think once again both teams will be looking at this game with a lot of pressure to get points, but ultimately looking at the players on paper, I do think Villa are the better team, and I would be surprised if they didn't come away with something like a 2-1 win, in my opinion. Now, looking at our second last game of the episode, it is West Ham United versus Chelsea, which once again, looking at West Ham United, I think they had a brilliant start versus Bournemouth, despite the fact that they got a draw, but I do think I have to give this one to Chelsea with a 2-0 win. Once again, I think to an extent, Chelsea are back this season. I thought they were absolutely phenomenal versus Liverpool, and actually quite unlucky not to come away with the win. I think in terms of their attacking ability, they definitely showed a lot of balls up front, except for the time that Virgil van Dijk kicked Jackson. But ultimately, I do think this Chelsea team had a phenomenal performance. They've got some exciting young players in the squad, especially now that Caicedo and Lavia have seemed to join the club.
You're joking.
Once again, I would be surprised if Chelsea didn't get a win here. But of course, that takes us to our last game of Premier League Matchweek 2 with Crystal Palace versus Arsenal. Now look here, Crystal Palace, yes, they definitely seemed a lot better than I thought they would in their first game of the season. But looking at Arsenal, I mean, once again, what a team. Even as a United fan, the way that they play, they've definitely got a lot of confidence in them. And I do think they could rival maybe City and 1 or 2 others for the title this season.
Don't give me hope.
I know you normally cook Rice, but Rice absolutely cooked in that game. I do think once again Arsenal have a lot of promise in this team. I think attacking wise once again super strong, defensively also a very good team, and I think they could get a very dominant 3-0 win. But of course, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for my Premier League Match Week 2 predictions. Once again, let me know your predictions down below. Don't forget to subscribe if you would like to follow this kind of content more in the future. Once again, every single week, my Premier League Match Week predictions, you might as well subscribe, along with leaving a like down below, as it does help the channel out. Or at least I think so. I don't know. Everyone says it does. But of course, guys, this has been Finn, FYNN. I hope you enjoy Premier League Match Week 2. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Cheers. Bye.